What's good, Jan, and welcome to this video. In this one, I'll be showing you a brand new, never before seen Gear Dungeon 1 strategy featuring Beelzebub as well as a ton of replacements for most of these units you see here. So you'll be getting like 4 or 5 different variants where I show you like how to set it up in the beginning and then one finished run with this team right here. And yeah. First off, let's talk about the team comp and who is required and who can be replaced how. So, required units straight off the bat are going to be Elwyn, Vienna, Beelzebub and Greed. Those 4 are the only unreplaceable units. Vienna, Beelzebub, Greed and Elwyn. Everything else has a replacement. So, for example, for Vortex, you could be using any other healer that manages to cover the unit you see in this video, but I would heavily recommend just using a Vortex because everybody should be owning one. If not, you could also, for example, put in someone like, I don't know, Hollow, or I guess even Tallulah. Outside of that, you need 2 tanks. It doesn't matter who, just 2 tanks. There you go, double epic tank. You also do not need Isolde. As you can see, we aren't even running her as the Lord. She could also be whoever you want. Next up, we have Janquar. So Janquar is one of, I think it's 5. I might be counting a bit too not enough, but he's probably one of 5 units. What you're looking for is units capable of AoE magic damage. Out of the epic category, there's 2 units that work. It's Janquar and it's Elysia. If you have either Janquar or Elysia as the only epic units here, you can use either of them. So besides these 2 epics, you have 5 different legendary options. Ares, Valkyra, Thalin, Ymerit and Magda. No awakenings on any of these units. All 5 can be used. And I'll also show you the Ymerit variation because Ymerit is slightly special in the way we approach this team. So that's the fighter part. Outside of that, you have a curse lord. A curse lord helps, but a curse lord can also be overcome by better gear. Though the important part here is you don't even need a legendary curse lord. It could be Aeon, it could be a Bizu. You could even use a Morrigan or Demi if you have them to make it easier, but curse lord. That's all. Which leaves us with our very last slot, and that has to be right here, Beatrix. So replacements for Beatrix are actually going to be Anora as our first replacement. Then Ajax as our second replacement. And lastly, we already briefly talked about him in the fighter category, but Ymerit. So Beatrix, Anora, Ymerit and Ajax can all do the exact same thing. You again get like an idea of how to do the runs. So I would say we go into the runs and do the gear at the end.
Our research begins.
Alright, so the game plan is simple. We'll be taking this team into a full run. And after that you get short clips that kind of explain the differences between the runs and how you deal with changing different characters, just so we all know how to deal with every situation. Every run is going to be opened up by the same combination of Vienna in that spot combined with a tank in an invigoration set. It doesn't matter what kind of tank it is. And then next up we'll be finishing up our first 3 formation with an Elwyn. We'll actually be waiting rather long on using Vienna. And also as soon as we hit that 25 cost, we'll be bringing in Greed already and activate any ultimates we can. Right here, as soon as that archer in the back hits around the 85% HP mark, that's pretty much what you're aiming for. You can already use the execute, and as you see, everything gets executed. We'll be placing down this wood elf and then removing it to give us a bonus of 3 cost, and waiting out this shot from the boss right here, which gets followed up by this Crimson Moon bar. If the Crimson Moon bar appears, you can take out your first tank and place in your second, so we get them out of the way of the bottom wave. just so nobody actually is able to heal out there. Here we'll be quickly speeding up the time, and as soon as we hit that 22 cost, it's time for us to put in Beatrix. And now with the enemies obviously closing in, we'll be basically trying to pay attention to both lanes. And yeah, for the top lane, for the bottom lane, we'll be trying to wait as long as possible. And here with another Wood Elf, we're again going to give ourselves a bit of cost. As soon as you hit 17 cost, we'll be bringing in Vortex as a healer. And now we'll be paying close attention to the bottom lane, to the point that you look for this first guy right here, this one. And as soon as that guy is pretty much touching the white line to the core, that's when you trigger Viana's ultimate. As you see, everyone still got hit. Everyone is below the execution range, and it's just game over for everybody, which is pretty much perfect timing. Outside of that, you don't really do much besides waiting for that 10 cost, so we can place down Beelzebub. And with him, it's going to be pretty simple. We'll be waiting until we can trigger him and Beatrix's ultimate at the same time, which is going to be, for example, right now. And then you'll see that he summons his Fly Swarm, which does the slow, and he also increases the movement speed, or not the movement speed, the attack speed of our summons. Otherwise, we also need to pay attention, or at least pay a bit of attention to the bottom lane here again. We get ourselves some extra cost once more, and then use that to place in Janquar as our fighter. And no matter who you pick, be it Elysia, Janquar, or any of the other units, this is pretty much the same kind of mechanic. The good part about Janquar is he times his ultimate himself, so there really isn't all that much you have to do. And then here, once again, we try to wait as long as possible for the bottom lane. And then once more, in one fellow swoop, execute everybody. And if that Crimson Moon bar appears, that is when you can take out your tank, put in your other tank, just so you're on the safe side when it comes to dealing with these annoying archers there. So now you have two scenarios. Either they survive briefly, or then Janquar comes in and uses his extra range while also being in ultimate to help your Beelzebub and Beatrix out in killing that wave. Then it's going to be the same thing. Once again, you use both ultimates at 100%. These archers at the bottom are pretty much going to be taken care of by themselves. You'll even see something funny like Beelzebub pulling him in, but it's nothing too special. And then outside of that, you don't even need to start placing Wood Elves anymore. It's just gonna be basically repeating what we've already done before. If there's any Sorbonne Arcana stacks you still need to gain on any units, you can obviously then trigger these, but yeah. So right here you also see again perfect timing. As soon as these units in front of Janquar become visible, he actually activates his ultimate, and then these last percentages is something that Janquar can take care of by himself. Once more, we are obviously forced to pay attention to the bottom lane, where we'll again just wait for a text phase, which means that the boss summons the text, because it's just the easiest timing if you want to swap out your tank, because there's no shots happening, which means also no mistakes. Tank swapped out. Once again, here you see that the HP are already below 50%, so you could be executing earlier, but we'll be just giving it a bit more, just in case, depending on your gear. Next execute, again, nobody reached. And what I find super exciting about the prospect of using Janquar in this run is the fact that his ultimate just times so well. You see that as soon as these enemies actually come to him, he is able to do his damage. And even though he doesn't do a lot in this fight, he still is able to put out between 140 and 220,000 single target magic damage, which helps clear out these invisible units so fast that then your both magic damage dealing units, so Beelzebub and Beatrix, can focus on these guys first, and then also you still have Janquar to help out. Otherwise, the last execute is a little bit funky, nothing too crazy, and that execute actually happens when you wait for that last archer guy to enter the tile. So you see how his foot enters? That's when you can execute, kill everybody, and it's fine. And to be honest, from my experience, I think you can even do it a bit earlier, allowing you to kill every single, yeah, even if one archer survives, that archer is in no way able to defeat your whole formation. And even if you can always just bring in a tank and infinitely stall him. So there's a lot of ways to recover and then redo with Power of Dominance. Again here, last wave, these units survive briefly, but they're basically dead already. And there we end it. Now that the run is done, time to quickly go through the gear rapid fire. We have a Beelzebub broken gear, 20% rage regen, could also be 0%. Otherwise notable substats are attack percent with attack speed rage regen, some flat attack. Here we have attack speed and flat attack, some attack with attack speed and flat attack. Otherwise, also the crit damage does make a difference, it doesn't deal any damage. Here we have attack speed, attack percent with attack speed. It's whatever. You have a couple choices. You could also be running a Soulbound Arcana set with, for example, similar stats or way less crit rate, because this artifact enables it. Artifact wise, it is a +10 on the exclusive. You could also be trying to, for example, go for a Cataclysm set. The stats required aren't really all that crazy, and you would then, for example, be using a Curse piece. Obviously doesn't necessarily need to be as good. Stats to focus on, you just want attack, then some attack speed and attack flat. Rage regen is whatever, you don't need it. And that's Beelzebub for you. Now we have Vierna. Vierna currently is in a... you can see she has no attack speed whatsoever because she doesn't benefit it. She doesn't have any rage regen, and the stats are as following. Her exclusive with crit rate, crit damage. Another piece with crit rate, crit damage. Once more, crit rate, crit damage. Here, attack percent, crit rate, crit damage. And attack percent, crit rate, crit damage. Again, could be even lower, and also, if you wanted to, you could be swapping to a Soulbound Arcana set that once more looks something similar to this. Doesn't really make a difference. Again, main focus on attack, so something like this could also work. So you have the choice between either a very low investment Cataclysm set or a run-of-the-mill Soulbound Arcana set. Artifact wise, Crown of Souls and Tear of Twilight at 25 both do their job perfectly. And yeah, that's Vierna. Next up in the line we have Greed. So Greed is just in high attack speed, high rage regen, some HP, and then a Mana Spring set. The Mana Spring isn't as important, it works even without. Artifact wise we have a Spellcaster's Echo, so he recovers rage. Technically it's also possible to use, come on, the other one, you know what I mean, right? Let's check the forge because the name really just went past me. Nightmare Samsara. Nightmare Samsara should also work. So that's Greed for you. Now we have our main DPS gear, which is Beatrix. Beatrix is in attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, and then full attack left side. So whatever you have here. Stats could obviously be slightly worse, but it is again a Soulbound Arcana with full attack focus, as well as a Tear of Twilight as the artifact. Tear of Twilight could also be lower. Vortex really doesn't matter. This is way too good gear. You just need high HP, high attack speed, some healing effect. Artifact is Brightwood Ring, it's whatever. Baron, simple. Invigoration set. Elowen, broken set, whatever the fuck this is. What does it? Yeah, apparently exclusive max HP, yes. So it's whatever. Then we have Isolde, also whatever. So this leaves the last guy, which gotta be Janquar. Janquar, simply speaking, you just go full attack, then crit rate, crit damage, attack speed, full attack, full attack. Here, crit rate, crit damage, crit rate. Here you even have attack percent, crit rate, attack speed. It doesn't really make too much of a difference. The nice artifact is Frigid Flame. Reason why Frigid Flame works is this talent right here. When he blocks enemies, so when the invisible guys start getting blocked by him, he curses them, which means they cannot hit them with his basic attacks, meaning Frigid Flame is going to keep full stacks, and it also like opens up a possibility. Otherwise you could probably get away with the Ram tier, Wailing Skull. I don't think Eye of Sin does much for Janquar. Ajax time it is. It is the exact same gear as before. So full on attack on the left side, no 4-stat gear pieces, and a 25 Tear of Twilight. You could also use this exclusive artifact, though the timing might be slightly different. Alright, so we've reached the same state again, which is right here where we just first swap out our tank. Then we can fast forward time and wait for, in this case, Ajax to actually be ready cost-wise, which is right now. So we just place him in. For the bottom, again, we try to take as much time as possible. Also, we'll be using any ultimates that are usable, as well as putting in the Wood Elf again, taking it out, just so we gain some cost. You survived the Crimson Moon even without the Wood Elf there, so that's not something you really need to worry about. And then here, we again wait as long as possible, use the Vierna, execute, and provide healing to Ajax. Fast forward time, bring in that beautiful Beelzebub, and then let him already, as well as Ajax, start weakening these enemies. Next step on the list is obviously going to be Janquar, and this is kind of the point where we are mostly done. Now we just gotta look out for two different things. Number one has to be the bottom lane. We also activate any ultimates to trigger potential Sorbonne Arcana sets. And yeah, we'll be using our execute for the bottom lane right around now to give us enough time to where shortly before the timer on these units actually runs out, that's when we activate Beelzebub's ultimate, as well as perform the tank swap. And then right here, as soon as these guys obviously enter his range, you can use Ajax's ultimate to bring that AoE damage. So the combination of the AoE damage, the magic down resist, as well as the slow from Beelzebub is what allows you to then be able to kill these units. Once more, we can fast forward time, and I just show you that everything is still in place by the next time this wave comes around, just so you know that you can do this indefinitely, but I won't be showing you the full run. You should be able to manage that. So right here, once again, we pretty much approach the same timing, where we activate Beelzebub, we also activate Ajax, and Janquar naturally activates by himself, and as you'll see, the enemies get torched even a bit earlier here, which means our timing was slightly better. And obviously for the bottom, it would be kill the units, swap in the tank, continue. For Anora, it's the same gear that was also on Beatrix, so full attack focus, no force stats, full stats right here. Artifact wise, her exclusive at +10, though I think other artifacts should also work, especially if you were to, for example, give her a Tear of Twilight at 25. This is the Elysia build, and you can put this exact build on any one of the replacements, be it Volcra, Eris, Thelen, Magda. Alright, so we've again just swapped out the tank, placed the Wood Elf, gained ourselves some extra cost, and we'll be starting it off with Anora at the top. And then right here, obviously, use any ultimates to boost the Sorbonne Arcana sets if in use. Execute again at the latest possible moment to give ourselves the most time and also to keep the enemies as weak as possible. And then introduce Vortex into the mix. As soon as you do it before like the next Crimson Moon, everyone's gonna be fine. Here you can also introduce Beelzebub, which could have been a few costs earlier. And then right here we'll be starting it off with Anora's ultimate, followed by Beelzebub's, as well as the cost gen elf. And then as soon as we hit 23, we'll be placing her in. Once again, also keeping an eye at the top as well as the bottom lane. These enemies are close, which means we can execute. As soon as they die, we can do the tank swap again. Elysia's ultimate is ready, which means we activate it as soon as possible. And then the rest is pretty much just your mages attacking them and GG's. Again, we're going to do one more wave just so you see that the timings do actually fit and that there's nothing too crazy about it. And also this time it's going to be slightly different, where, as you see, the timer for the second ult we're actually going to be waiting for them to start or almost start right here. Again, activate any potential support ultimates and then double ult with Anora and Elysia, whatever. And that should be able to clear these guys out before they reach and heal themselves. As you see, it was pretty close, but that's just the Anora way, and also it wouldn't have been as close if there was, for example, let's say a Volcra, a Ares, or let's even a Thalin here to help out with these guys a bit earlier. Yeah, I think we're gonna finish this run here because this one is at least a bit more complex. So again, we wait for these guys to get low. And here we execute fast forward time. You see these enemies are already weakened from like the past ultimate by Anora, which is obviously a great carryover effect. And then here to slow them down, as well as use Elysia's ultimate, so we can get rid of these units earlier, which means our units can focus on these other guys earlier, and there you go. So obviously not as close as before. Once more, we can speed up time. Here again, this is going to be a close one where you wait for this last archer to actually touch, just right now, and then you just execute all of them. And what you're gonna notice here is obviously you have a lot of time. So here we'll be actually using all of these ultimates at the same time because Anora's ultimate is back again. So we wait for this to time out, or at least almost time out, start the slow, wait for them to get into that range, use the big boy ultimate with the big boy damage, and then clear the fight. This is Ymerit's gear, notable change in comparison to everything before. We are running 1 crit damage on the left side in comparison to full attack. Otherwise also a frigid flame because he can go into the air, so he takes less damage. Magda in our standard full attack, no force stat, Soulbound Arcana, Infernal Roar with an Eye of Sin. So here we are once again just after the tank swap, and the difference with Ymerit is that he's kind of the most needy of them all. So you gotta run him with a legendary fighter up top, so it's going to narrow it down to like Thalin, Volcra, Ares and Magda. Those should be like the current viable options. I might have forgotten one, but I don't think I have. If I did, be sure to consider, be sure to correct me in the comments. There we go. So once more, we'll obviously be trying to go as far as or as long as possible at the bottom lane without ulting. Then ult to obviously give our Viana as much time as possible to wear them down. And then place down my guy right here. As well as finally Magda. So timing wise, it is actually slightly different also than the other ones, because Ymerit tends to like to attack these archers down there. So what we'll have to do is obviously use any other support ultimates, whatever, to stack a potential Soulbound Arcana set. If you do have one, do our execute and basically already start the slow only right here. So basically as soon as they move, that's kind of your go-to. And yeah, the reason for that is that these guys, basically these guys can't be faster than those, but also not too slow, because then for whatever reason you see Ymerit proceeds to also attack them. But as you can see, we did manage it to make it through. And here, yeah, let's regenerate some cost. And then it's pretty much going to be like the same order of cost generation for the next round. Obviously with Magda being a bit slower, but I think we also have a bit of an advantage for the second wave anyway. So it's not that bad. Enemies again start moving. You start ulting. Obviously get in any other ults you can. And then you see that Magda isn't even needed, right? This time everything worked fine, especially also because there aren't any archers to distract. So once again, full focus to the bottom lane, where we wait out again as long as we're comfortable, which is around right here. You see the enemies are ready by as low as 20%, so you could technically just go ahead with it, but we don't really bother with it too much, so we just wait as long as possible. Once again, kind of same scenario. Enemies start moving, you start activating. Right here, we let him go sky high, also activate Magda, and then it's pretty much GG already. Again, get in any ultimates just because you can. And here the last execute timing for is here again going to be a bit different, where you pay attention to his foot, kind of you can see it with the cursor, and then you pull the trigger, and there you go. And then now it's just up to us and getting it down against the last wave. So here we go, again the big slow, the you can't hit me, as well as, yeah, that's pretty much already it. You can see we didn't even need the ultimate, and it's GG.